Children crammed by their own mother into a closet, a tiny one. No air, no food, and 10 hours later, 2 of the children found dead. And in a shocking twist, we learn it's not the first time their mother has locked them in the closet.
911, where's your emergency?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry?
Yes, please. We would like to get emergency, please.
Stuffed animals at death's doorstep. Silent tributes that speak to the inhuman treatment that went undiscovered inside.
I tell you, this is one of the most disgusting incidents I've heard about, and I've been on the department 28 years.
Okay, what's going on there?
I have seen a child dead.
Who?
A child.
What's wrong with the child?
It's already dead.
5 children ages 1 through 7 spent more than 10 hours locked inside a small upstairs closet. 2 of them didn't make it out alive.
I'm sorry?
It's already dead.
You need an ambulance?
Yes, ambulance and everything.
And for the very latest, let's go to Gage Lutz. He's the news director with WBIW. Fill us in on what happened in this horrible case.
Well, the mother had locked her four of her 5 children in the closet, like you heard, for 10 hours. And she's been charged with neglect of a dependent and is being held on $200,000 bond right now. And they're trying to get a gag order, and their prosecutors are asking for 72 hours or a little bit more time to find out more information on the story.
Let's go to Ellie Jostad, Nancy Grace, producer. You know, Ellie, what is so upsetting, you think about the size of this closet, how many kids were inside, and sort of describe, there were other things inside, not just the kids, right?
That's right, Rita. And this is a closet that is 6 feet by 24 inches. There are 4 children inside. We've got in the closet a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Police say this wasn't an empty closet either. There were clothes inside, other items, and they believe these kids were in there at least 10 hours. The 7-year-old who survived said it was dark when she entered the closet, and it was dark when she got out.
Carl Brizzi, Marion County prosecutor. I have to ask you, Carl, when you hear the story, it almost seems like it doesn't get any worse. And yet she doesn't rush to call 911. In fact, I understand she fought to call 911. Her uncle was trying to do it, and she didn't want him to do it, right?
No, that's right. According to the probable cause affidavit, she attempted to prevent the uncle from calling 911 through the phone, away from him, actually tore his glasses off to try and prevent him from calling 911. I can tell you that we as a community are struggling with this case. I personally am struggling with it. I've been the prosecutor here for almost 8 years, been a prosecutor for over a decade, and as a parent of 4, this is really difficult to comprehend.
You know, it is so upsetting, this case, and you cannot think, beautiful little young kids, 2 of them to die, and apparently this mother has locked children in the closet before. Let's go to our callers. We've got a lot of them already. Tiffany from Indiana. Tiffany, what's your question tonight?
Hi. Yeah. I was wanting to know if her neighbors or this friend that she went shopping with knew that she locked these kids in a closet and left them there like that for 10 hours with no food and no water? Or did any of her people know that? Like her parents or, you know, this is crazy.
It is crazy. Let's go to Gage Lutz, the news director with WBIW. Gage, is there any indication anyone else knew, or was someone tipped off by her behavior?
Well, some of her neighbors said, you know, the kids were very nice, but they were never really outside, and they heard some of the sisters yelling, but they just figured, you know, it was sisters arguing with each other. But other than that, they didn't really suspect anything at all.
Let's go to Patty from Texas, who's on the line. Patty, what's your question tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I've got a couple questions. First of all, looking at this woman, it looks like she may have been addicted to something. I mean, she's so thin, you know. And the other question is, the 7-year-old, obviously, I would hope she was in school, and I'm wondering if maybe we can help stop these things from happening by providing more education to the children in the schools and having them tell on their parents, you know. and cry out for help instead of letting this go on and on until something like this happens.
You know, it is so upsetting, and you hit a lot of good points there, Patty. And in terms of the addiction or maybe this woman's history, let's go to Ellie Jostad, Nancy Grace producer. Anything in this woman's history, Ellie, that we know?
Well, the Department of Children and Family Services tell us they didn't have a history with this mother. However, mentioning the thinness, she did say the mother told police that her uncle told her, you need to cook more, you need to feed the kids more, you yourself need to eat more. And she says she agreed with him on that, but she did tell him, I did something wrong, and started to cry the day that this happened.
Let's go to Eleanor Odom, felony prosecutor. You know, one of the questions, I thought this was a great question that Patty asked about the kids. And this is, if the story doesn't get bad enough, everybody, my understanding is the 7-year-old was in the closet at the time, started screaming when she realized that her brother and her sister were dead next to her. And when she started screaming, that's the only reason the mother opened up the closet. That's what I've seen from reports. This is devastating, don't you think?
Oh my God, can you imagine watching your own siblings die in a closet? This mother should be charged with so many crimes, from murder to cruelty to children, for forcing the children who remained alive to watch their siblings die. It's terribly cruel. And you know, the question was asked, why isn't there education in schools to have kids tell? Well, there is that type of education, but you got to remember, oftentimes they are loyal to their parents, they still love their parents, and parents will threaten children and say, you don't tell what goes on in the home. And sadly, we see that every day, Rita.
You know, the other question, too, in terms of the time frame, let's go to Gwen O'Keefe. She's a doctor, pediatrician, author of the new book, Cyber Safe. Dr. O'Keefe, do we know, can we gauge how long the kids were in there? It is so upsetting to hear that the kids may have been stiff and that clearly rigor mortis set in. But then we hear from the little girl, the 7-year-old, that it was dark when she got in and dark when she got out.
Well, closets are dark.
We can't tell for sure, Rita, but we can tell from just what the kids describe. If it's dark when they got in and dark when we got out, that's a huge amount of the day. And rigor mortis takes a good amount of time to set in, so that's certainly an amount of hours. I think it's safe to say the kids were in there at least half a day, if not longer.
It is so upsetting. Let's go to Amy from Tennessee, who's on the line. Amy, what's your question?
Yes, I was wondering if, like, she had any kind of investigations with DCS and if she's got any kind of an arrest record.
That's a great question. Carl Brizzi, Marion County prosecutor. Any track record with this woman, any history?
You know, I'm not able to talk about that due to the ethical guidelines that are imposed upon prosecutors. But, you know, one of the things that I can say, though, is that, just to echo what some of the callers and other guests have talked about, is the fact that this case not only affects these two babies, 3 and 4, who died in the closet, but also, can you imagine the 7-year-old who literally witnessed these three, the 3-year-old, the 4-year-old, they were crying before the 7-year-old said they fell asleep. And the 7-year-old was the person who alerted the mother that the babies were dead, and she watched the mom carry the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old down the stairs in full rigor, which means that rigor mortis had set in. So they have been dead for some time. According to the probable cause affidavit, and again, this woman is presumed innocent until proven guilty, but they've been in that closet for over 10 hours. No water, no food.
This is awful.
4663 Londonderry Drive, where police discovered 2 children dead inside. The first officer who arrived on the scene reported signs of rigor mortis in the bodies.
I'm wondering if they're talking about it was dark outside when they all went in, and dark outside when they came out of the closet, which would mean they went in at night and came out maybe early morning hours when it was still dark, or the other way around. I don't know.